Welcome to Register on Track for the Faculty of Science. We're very excited to have you here tonight and looking forward to jumping in to course selection and registration and all of those things. Before we start, there's going to be people joining tonight from all over the world. But right now, myself and the other presenters are joining from Mi'kma'ki, also known as Nova Scotia. And in the fall soon, you'll be joining in Mi'kma'ki and Nova Scotia as well. So we're going to start this session with a land acknowledgement. Dalhousie University operates in the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Pescota-Makati peoples. These sovereign nations hold inherent rights as the original peoples of these lands, and we each carry collective obligations under the peace and friendship treaties. Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights in Canada. We recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. So as you're thinking about course selection and registering and getting ready to come to the fall, I'd encourage you to take some time and learn a little more about the land and the people that you're joining here in Nova Scotia. And then just an introduction from me. My name is Catherine. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a student success advisor at the Bissett Student Success Center at Dal. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from the Faculty of Science at Dal as well. And I just have some pictures on the screen here just so you can get to know me just a little better. And so in the top left, you have just a headshot of me. So that's what I look like on a good day. And then next to that in the top right, we have one of my cats, Lola. She is very confident, basking in the sun, really dominating this space. Underneath her on the bottom right is Bambi. And so Bambi's a little shyer. She's a little more nervous. As you can tell, she's hiding under a chair. And they're sisters. So Lola really is the dominating one there. And then to the bottom left, we have a picture of me outside gardening. So what I like to do in the summer, once the weather gets a bit nicer, is really spend my time outside growing things. My goal every year is to try and grow a vegetable or something, and it's really, really fun. So if you do see me in the fall, please ask me how my garden went. Did I manage to grow anything? How is that looking? And so that's what I'll be spending most of the summer doing. And I mentioned the Bissett Student Success Center where I work, and we are located in the 4th floor of the Student Union building, and we offer academic advising, we offer career services, studying for success, and peer advising. So we're a great hub, and we'll get more into the specific things that we offer later on in the presentation. And as we're going through this, there might be questions that come up, which is totally okay. And so a few things to note. One, when you jumped on, this session is going to be recorded and the recording will be posted on YouTube. And you will get an email of the recording and of the slides so that you can review it later in your own time as well. We also have a Q&A function. So if you're going along or at the end, you do still have some questions, we do have a Q&A feature you can use. So if you went to the bottom bar of Zoom, there'd be a button that looks like the one on the screen that says Q&A, and you can click that and then you're able to ask your questions into that box. And then click send, and it will go to myself and the other panelists here with me tonight. Now, if you don't want your name to be associated with the question you ask, you can click send anonymously, and so we will receive it anonymously, and your name won't be associated with it. But if there's anything you feel like you're missing, this session is recorded and you will be emailed a copy as well as the slides. So that was a bit at the start, and then we're going to jump into our agenda. So first, we're going to go over a bit of a welcome, an introduction to DAL, and then we're going to dive into course selection, what you need to be ready, how to find your courses, create a schedule, register, and then other key supports for success when you come to DAL. So first thing, I just have a little welcome from my team to you. Welcome to DAL! So I hope you feel from that energy, kind of the excitement that everyone has. We're all so excited to welcome you both tonight, but also in the fall or winter onto campus. Everyone is so excited to see you in September. There's a lot of exciting energy. It's a great environment to be in. And so we're all really, really excited to have you. And with that, when you next meet with someone, when you're chatting with an advisor, what are you most excited about? That's what we want to know. What made you choose DAL? Why did you pick the East Coast to come study? And then what maybe challenges you're anticipating? Is there anything you might be a little nervous about? Anything that you can work through this summer and get connected with so that you have a really smooth transition? And then as you'll find out as we go along, there's lots of different ways to tailor your degree, both inside and outside of the classroom. And so what do you want to do to make the most out of your time here at Dal? And first off, I'm going to pass you on to Caitlin, who's going to talk a little about her time here at Dal.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I use she, her pronouns. I am a current Bachelor of Science student. I'm in the honors degree for microbiology and immunology, and I'm also doing a minor in health studies. So, with that, a lot of my electives are health based electives, which I find really interesting. In terms of campus and community involvement, I've been with the Dalhousie Medical Campus Response Team for the past 3 years. I've served as a volunteer medical responder, as the director of operations for the team, and now I'm in the communications role, so that's something I really love to do. I've also spent some time volunteering with the Dalhousie Science Society and represented microbiology and immunology students there. And I was involved with the Dalhousie Leadership Academy, where I got to meet a lot of other students who were interested in leadership opportunities and learn from a lot of great people around campus. So that's something else that I recommend checking out. My favorite class that I've taken so far is called Clinical Microbiology. In this class, I learned a lot about different viruses and different pathogens that make you sick, and we went through the different courses of treatment. So it felt really like a lot like any of those medical TV dramas, and it was really interesting to, by the end of the class, be able to recognize some signs and symptoms and think about what might have caused that. For advice, I definitely recommend finding activities that you love to do. There's so many different groups at Dal, so many student societies, volunteer opportunities, and it's okay if what you initially set out wanting to do changes as you find different things that you enjoy. I didn't plan to do microbiology and immunology as my major, so looking back, I think first year me would probably be surprised by my choice, but again, I really like it, so I'm happy with where I've landed.
Wonderful, thank you. And it's so cool to hear that you came in with one plan and it switched a little. And so that is one of the great things with the Faculty of Science is that there is flexibility there and there's a chance for you to really explore and see what you're interested in. And also there are lots of ways to get involved outside of the classroom as well. So based on your interest, there are different societies and clubs and different things that you can do outside of the classroom to also get involved and engaged. And now I'm going to pass it on to Patricia, who's going to talk a little more about the Faculty of Science.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Welcome, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have you here today and really a privilege to be able to welcome you on behalf of the Faculty of Science to Dalhousie and to Dal Science. What I thought I would do is share a little bit in terms of the importance of the work that you're going to be doing tonight with Catherine and picking your classes and thinking through what that course selection process looks like, but also hopefully one of the major take homes that you can have from tonight's presentation really is the fact that there is a lot of different options and flexibility with a science degree, and that there's a lot of people here at Dal who are happy to help you plan that science degree and work through your entire degree with you as you really work to get the degree that's right for you and the program that suits your interests and passions. And so if we could go to the next slide, Catherine. Just a quick reminder, the Faculty of Science at Dalhousie is the largest faculty. We have 18 different programs, over 4,000 students, and over 200 faculty members who are teaching those courses and really running the research mission within the Faculty of Science, that mission that we encourage a lot of our students to get involved with. If we go to the next slide, I was on the weekend, I was with my niece as she was doing some course selection and thinking about her first steps on making that journey to university. And I have to say that I really think that this first step is one of the most exciting. I can remember back to my first time when I was making my course choices and making those decisions on what classes I wanted to take in my first year, and knowing that there's a tremendous amount of support here to help you all make those decisions. Please, if you have questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to the advisors and to the team that is here to support in that course selection process. If we go to the next slide. So regardless of how you choose, how you want to plan your degree, whether it is a subject-driven plan, so you've decided that you want to come to Dal Science because you are absolutely passionate about the ocean and have known since you first smelled that beautiful ocean air, or saw your first whale that you wanted to be a marine biologist, or whatever that passion is that's driving you. If you have a favorite subject in high school and you can't wait to learn more about that, you're going to probably be making a lot of your course decisions based on that subject-driven pathway. And so on the next slide, we're going to show you the different programs that we offer within the Faculty of Science. So whether it is biology or marine biology, whether you're looking to study microbiology biology and immunology, or biochemistry, we have some really excellent representation for those two programs here tonight. The course plan that you will come up with in your first year is going to have a lot of similarities across some of those areas of interest. There will be some programs where there are specific 1,000 level courses that you should be choosing and selecting. So for example, in environmental science, if you want to study that, you're going to want to be leaning towards choosing some of those more specific programs. If you're in our integrated science or medical science program, you're going to be following a very specific course plan. But again, with all of the other programs that we have, there's a lot of flexibility. And so we encourage you to explore and try different classes that you're interested in, explore passions that you have as you're making those course selections. On the next slide, is really another stream of how you might be making that decision on why you chose Dal Science and why Dal Science was the right program for you. And that could be because you're looking more for a career-driven pathway. And so on the next slide, there's a couple of careers that we are highlighting in particular where you will use your first year or two within Dal Science to meet the readmission requirements for some of these programs. So it could be pharmacy, it could be nursing. You're looking to gather those those prerequisite or admission requirements along with planning your science degree. And we want you to know that this is a very achievable goal and that the team here is more than willing to help you work towards planning those courses and what you will need for your chosen path and why you might have chosen that path. On the next slide, I just want to highlight whether you're choosing to follow a subject-driven path and you want to study biology, or whether you might be interested in pharmacy or curious about it. I want you to see that there's overlap in the type of course plan that you might put together. So this is a very common course plan for students who are studying introductory biology, and a very common course plan for students who would be studying pharmacy, along the pharmacy pathway and getting those prerequisite requirements for pharmacy. You'll see that there's overlap with chemistry, biology, and statistics, as well as with the language and humanities and those English writing classes. What I often will encourage students to do is work towards building out a parallel plan. So as you're trying to make those decisions about what's right for you, you may discover a deep passion for biology, and you may realize that you want to go on and learn more about cell biology and genetics and become a much more of an expert in that area and choose to pursue a Bachelor of Science in biology. Or you may decide as you're studying and preparing for doing your courses for your biology degree that you actually are really passionate about becoming a pharmacist and working in the community. And so giving you that option to be able to, and flexibility to be able to move between those different pathways is a really important part of parallel planning, and encouraging you to think through what are some of those options that I might want to consider after I finish my first year, and work with an advisor to build out a plan that will be right for you. On the next slide, I also want to put out a big shout out for our first year interest groups. So first year interest groups are an excellent way for you to get to know like-minded students. We offer a wide variety of first year interest groups in the fall semester, where you can really delve into why is it that you were choosing a science degree? What was it that really called you? Was it the ocean? Was it psychology and mental health? Or perhaps you have that interest in pharmacy, and what I'm saying tonight is sort of aligning with a lot of the areas that you're interested in. We have free they're effectively courses. You register for them. There's no homework, And there's no cost to you, and it's an opportunity for you to connect with students who have similar interests. You'll work with, you'll also get to know some upper year students who serve as the TAs and leaders for these courses, these groups, and you'll have a chance to do some really cool things across campus. So for our oceans group, you might get a chance to go visit our aquatron, or get to explore some of the research labs that we have on campus, or talk to some of the researchers that we have. For some of our other FIGs, you might go on field trips to explore different areas within Halifax or within the greater Dal community, or connect with some of those programs like in pharmacy, working to connect with the individuals who are running those programs. So you have an opportunity to talk to them about admission requirements and what it is like to be a pharmacist. So I do encourage you to check out those first year interest groups on the timetable. And if you think that one of those might be right for you, really encourage you to sign up for them. On the next slide, I just want to highlight that we have Dal Science degree planners where students have a chance to really look throughout the whole progression of a degree, what different opportunities you might want to be considering as you progress through your degree. We do those tend to be subject based, and so giving students opportunities to look at when they might want to incorporate co-op, work in integrated learning, what some of the really cool courses are that we offer, and give you a chance to get to know more about what your Dal Science degree could look like. Then on the next slide, I thought as I was talking with my niece about her courses and what she wanted to study, I thought it might be helpful to give you a sense of what those first couple of days, weeks, and semesters might look like for you when you join us in September. And so we'll just go through a couple of key things. I'm not going to bombard you with information. Just want to give you a few pro tips and some information in terms of what those things might look like. So on the next slide, let's talk about those first few days. You're going to be arriving on campus. You're going to be unpacking, getting settled into wherever it is that you're living. Or if you're in Halifax and you're just trying to get used to the commute and figure out how it is you're going to get from point A to point B in time for your classes, whatever it is, there's going to be that arrival on campus piece, and you're going to be getting used to that and figuring all of that out. We also have lots of really great events, including so a welcome orientation. The Faculty of Science hosts an annual pizza party, which is actually a really great time, and lots of students come and join us. You have an opportunity to talk to your first year course instructors at that party, get to talk to some of the advisors and lots of fellow classmates and students, and a really good chance to just sit down and really take a deep breath and figure out how are your classes going and connect with the folks who are teaching them. You're also going to be attending those first labs or those first lectures, whether it's in person or online in those first few days in September. A pro tip is to let you all know that labs don't really start until the second week of classes. And so if you have a lab scheduled for Tuesday morning, which is our first day of classes, don't panic. We do not have labs on the first week of classes. You have a chance to get into your lectures and learn how labs will work and what all the requirements are before you actually will be in the lab doing the experiments. You'll also be finding your way around campus. So science students are going to be going into different buildings to have lectures and different buildings to have your labs. I liken it a lot to what it's like as you made those transitions probably from elementary to junior high, worrying about how you're going to find your way around that new school, or from junior high to high school. As you make those transitions to new places, it's very normal to be worried about getting lost or trying to find your way around. I wanted to let you know another pro tip is that often in those first couple of weeks of class, there's people walking around campus with big buttons on their chest saying "Ask me." And if you see someone with an "Ask me" button and you don't know where your class is or how to get around, please stop the person and ask them how to get to that class and where they need to go. Or where you need to go. So don't ever hesitate to ask someone on campus how to get around. We're happy to help and really excited to share with you the full Dal experience. those first few weeks, once you get through those first few days, you're going to be starting to work in the labs, doing experiments, getting adjusted to your tutorials, getting to know the students in those learning environments with you, those hands-on learning environments. You're going to be completing your first set of assignments, and also hopefully your first tests in those first few weeks. We do encourage course instructors to offer tests early on in the semester so that you get up and running with classes right away. We really do want you to get that full learning experience and ensure that you have an opportunity to learn from those first few tests and grow and develop those study skills that we also can support through the Bissett Student Success Center. So a little shout out to our study skills team in Bissett as well for the great work they do to support students in that transition from high school to first year university. On the next slide, we'll talk about those first few semesters now. So once you get past that first semester, you'll have your first set of exams. Then you're going to start to think, do I actually like these classes that I've chosen? Is this the program that I really want to study more? Or do you find that you're absolutely passionately drawn to study your chemistry classes more than your biology classes? What is it that you're really excited about? And so you're going to start to think about what you might want to major in. Have you changed your mind, or are you definitely in the right path for you? You might be exploring some different elective courses, maybe trying some different classes that might be a little bit outside of what you thought you might be studying, but give you a chance to discover something that you hadn't realized before, discover something about yourself, or discover something about the world that you had never thought of, or a different way of looking at things. You're also going to want to explore co-curricular opportunities. Maybe you'll TA that first year biology class that you took in your first year. Or maybe you're going to follow work integrated learning experiences and volunteer in a lab or take on co-op opportunities, getting involved with student societies. Whatever it is, we really encourage you to explore different opportunities, try different things. Not everything is going to be perfect for you, but don't give up. There are so many different societies, clubs, volunteer opportunities. There's a really great experiences just around the next corner for you. On the next slide, I've talked a little bit about, undergraduate research, volunteering in a lab. You might find that you get a summer job working in a research lab and have that privilege of being able to work alongside some of our researchers or other students as they're exploring a particular area of study. Also encourage you to really get involved in that Dalhousie Science Society, or what we call the D level or departmental level society. So if you're passionate about marine biology, we have a marine biology society where students who are all studying marine biology gather, and they do some fun outings, do some interesting field experiences, and really work together and laugh and learn together as they are studying. So I really encourage you to get involved. And on the next slide, I just want to close out by saying that every year our campus is quieter in the summer, and it feels like we come alive when you all arrive on campus in those first few days. And so I am so very excited to see you all in September. You never know, I might actually be there helping you to unpack your car as you move into residence, or answering some questions at one of our Ask Me booths. So I look forward to seeing you all in September.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining, Patricia. I hope that gave everyone a good taste of what it's like to be in the Faculty of Science, some things to expect and look forward to. And just maybe you will see Patricia on campus in the summer, and watch out for those Ask Me bins, as she had mentioned. Now, we're going to really now jump into getting ready for course selection and registration. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the steps that you need to do before we look to registration and course selection. So the first thing is, all of the information that we're going to be going over tonight, you can find at dal.ca/registration. So we're going to be going over those 4 steps that you see on the screen together. But if you had questions or if you had any follow-ups, you can find all of this information on the registration page. So naturally, the first thing that we're going to do and walk through would be step 1 right at the top. So step one, these are things that you're going to want to do before thinking about registration or all of that. This is what you want to do first. So the first thing is, once you got your letter, you needed to pay a $200 admission deposit. So if you haven't already paid the deposit, you'd want to go ahead and pay the deposit now if you can. You'll then want to activate your Net ID and password, and then set up your Dalhousie email. And then once you've done that, you'll want to check your registration status on Dal Online to make sure everything is working smoothly. And then if you're thinking of like key dates or what your next year is going to look like a little, you can go to dal.ca/dates and find the information for next year. Now, I know I mentioned Net ID, which is likely a word you haven't maybe heard before. And so it is a term that you're going to hear a lot. And so your Net ID is what you use to log into Dal Online. It's what you use for your Dalhousie email account. And it's what you use often to book spaces around campus. And so it's typically two letters followed by 6 numbers. And you can find your Net ID by going to password.dal.ca and clicking Activate your Net ID. And now your Net ID is different to your student ID or your B0 number, which you might have heard already. So your student ID or your B0 number, your banner number, that's what you found on your acceptance letter. It starts with a B and a 0. And that's what you use. So if you came and booked an appointment with myself, we would ask you when you're booking for your B0 number to book that appointment for you. So it's often something you'll do if you're meeting with someone on campus, like an advisor, whereas your Net ID allows you to access online platforms and spaces on campus. And your Net ID is the bit that's really important to get set up before registration day. So once you get your Net ID set up, you can go ahead and check your registration status. So by doing this, you'll want to go to Dal Online. You'll then go and log in using your Net ID and password, which is why you need to have set that up beforehand. You then go ahead and click Web for Students, and then you click Registration, and then Prepare for Registration over here to the right. And then weirdly, it wants you to kind of double check you want to prepare for registration. So you would click that again, and then you would put in the term that you're checking to register. Now, if you are starting in the fall semester, so if you're starting in September, you only want to check for September. So you want to make sure it's 2025, 2026 fall. If you're starting in September and you check for the winter semester, you're going to get some errors and it's going to feel a little confusing. So providing you check for the term you start and you get 3 green ticks, you are good to go. So if you're starting in September, you'll put 2025, 2026 fall, you'll press continue, and hopefully your screen would look like this. So you'd get 3 green ticks and then 1 exclamation mark in red there. And that red line is just letting you know that you can't register right now because you're allowed to register on June 7th. And that if providing you see those 3 green ticks, it means you're set up to go on registration day. And again, you only want to check for the semester you're joining. And if you see that, you're good to go. If you see anything funky here, I would suggest contacting the registrar's office just to confirm what's going on. But you've plenty of time now before registration day to see that and to check and make sure everything looks good. So that's what you want to do before you get going. And now we're going to dive into actually finding your courses and what that looks like. Before we get too into it, a lot of this information is going to be geared towards first-year students, but we likely have some transfer students in the audience as well. So I just wanted to touch on that. So if you are coming from another institution or you're expecting credits from your high school curriculum, you will want to apply for your transfer credits now. So your transfer credits is not automatic. They don't automatically get added to your record. You have to actually apply for them. And it can take some time. So I would encourage you to apply for them now and get that process rolling. If you are coming from another institution, so another university to Dal, your registration is open now. So you are able to register now. And so you don't have to wait. And so I'd encourage you to register. You can connect with an advisor about what that looks like. But go ahead and register now. And then you can always connect with an advisor if you have more questions. And Patricia mentioned at the start the pizza party and the different orientation things. So I just want to remind you that even if you are a transfer student, all of the orientation and new to Dal stuff are all available to you as well. So please do engage as much as you want when it comes in September. Now, I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what your degree might look like to then help you decide what courses you want to take. So there are lots of different ways to tailor your degree. And so if you're doing a 120 credit hour degree, you would have a major. So for example, my major was in biochemistry. Caitlin's is in microbiology and immunology. And so your major is typically between 12 and 14 classes. So that's between 36 and 42 credit hours, with a typical course being 3 credit hours. Now, some folks will choose to add a minor, so kind of a second area of interest. And that minor is typically 6 to 8 classes, and so that's between 18 and 24 credit hours. Some folks will add a certificate, which tends to be a bit more specialized in that knowledge, which is around 3 to 4 classes, so 9 to 12 credit hours, and it's a separate piece of paper when you graduate. And so folks do any combination of these things. So some will do a major and a minor, some will do a major on its own, some will do a double major where you have 2 main areas of interest, and some will add in a certificate. So all this to say, there are lots of different ways to structure your degree and tailor it to your interests. And you do have time to figure out what those interests might be. But it just gives you a bit of an idea that don't feel like you're stuck. That is a lot of flexibility there too. And so this kind of lays it out a little with your general degree requirements, which we'll talk about in a minute, taking up around 30 credit hours of your degree. So about a quarter if your degree is 120 credit hours. Your major subject would be between 30 and 54 credit hours, so just under half. And then your electives would be between 60 and 36 credit hours, so kind of between a half and a quarter. So with that, you have lots of space for electives to then be able to explore what your interests are and what you want to do. And so we've talked a lot about credit hours and what that looks like. And when we think of that 120 credit hour degree, like I said, one course is typically 3 credit hours. So when you're thinking about your course load, your workload for a semester, to be considered a full-time student, you need to be taking a minimum of 9 credit hours. That's typically 3 courses a semester. And so some things will want you to be a full-time student or need you to be a full-time student. For example, if you're here on a student visa, it might be required if you are a varsity student, if you are living in residence, depending on your funding, so student loan, scholarship, all of these things might require you to be a full-time student. And then we have a full course load. So a full course load is 15 credit hours a semester. It's typically 5 3-credit hour courses. And this is the maximum number of courses that you want to do in a semester. And so typically, this is maybe the more traditional way. So if you're looking to complete your degree in 4 years, it's typically 5 courses a semester. But there are lots of different ways to complete your degree and lots of different situations where you might not want to take or be able to take 5 courses. So if you do want to talk about course load or you're not sure what's going to be the best fit for you in terms of a number of courses, do connect with an advisor and chat about what that's going to look like based on your needs. But know that to be considered full-time, there might be certain things that need you to be full-time. And so once we've got a little of that, we've talked a little about what your degree can look like and then workload, we're going to dive into actually how do you find courses for your degree. And so we're back to that page, dal.ca/registration. And under step 2, we're going to click the course planning worksheet. And then you can see here under the Faculty of Science, we have the Bachelor of Science, the Bachelor of Science Medical Sciences, and then the Dalhousie Integrated Science Course Selection Guide and Registration. So the course planning worksheet looks like this, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and pull up the worksheet so we can just chat about that. So give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. So here we have the page, that course planning worksheet page, and we're just going to go down and click the Bachelor of Science. And so this was the same page you saw on the screen, just with a little more detail. So the first page, we have some useful information at the top. And then here we have recommended courses by intended major. So if you do have a major in mind or several majors in mind, we've broken down the recommended courses based on the major. And so you can see the kind of specific courses, and then you have often space for writing requirements and electives. We've also added in that if you are considering a FIGS, suggested FIGS based on what your major of interest might be, but you could take any FIG that you wanted. But we just have them listed there as optional. We then, on the second page, have some more information. So as a Bachelor of Science student, there are certain of those general degree requirements that you need to do. So one of them is that you need to complete your writing requirement. You don't have to do it in your first year, but it's something, if you have space, we encourage you to do. And so Bachelor of Science students can fulfill their writing requirement by taking a 6 credit hour course, any 2 3 credit hour courses from the list, or by taking Science 1111 or English 1111. And so you can see here we've broken down all of the possible options for you to take to complete your writing requirement. So you'd either need to take one 6 credit hour course, such as creative writing. You can tell here it says the 06, which indicates it's 6 credit hours, or you can take any 2 from any of those lists, except for ocean science that must be taken together, or you could take Science 1111 or English 1111. You then, as a Bachelor of Science student, need to complete 6 credit hours of math or stats. And so there are a few things that can help there. So one, there is a Brightspace kind of course that is a self-assessment. So you can do that and it'll help you decide which math is going to be the best fit for you. And so if you're not sure what math to take, that can be a great option to start with. And then we just have the math courses broken down based on major of interest. And again, you'll see under majors, they often have the math courses laid out as what to take to fulfill that requirement. And then you have your electives. So as a Bachelor of Science student, before you graduate, you have to complete 6 credit hours of your social sciences and 6 credit hours of your language and humanities. And so they've broken the subject groupings down. So for social sciences, you need to take 2 courses from this list. It could be the same subject or different. And for language and humanities, the same thing, 2 courses from this list, either in the same subject or different. One lovely thing is your writing course can also fulfill your subject grouping as well. So if you chose to take philosophy 1810 and 1820, for example, for your writing, that is also going to count as your language and humanities here. But that second page really breaks down what your general degree requirements are, so the things that you need to do before you graduate. And the first page really highlights what courses you need to take to be set up to major in that particular subject. So that kind of goes over the first 2 pages of the course planning worksheet. And then on the third page, we have information on how to find your courses and how to register. And then on the final 2 pages, we have a fillable blank schedule that you can fill out yourself. And so the medical sciences one looks very similar. It has a bit more structure with kind of those 4 core courses a semester that you need to take, and then the choice of a writing or an elective. Again, it lists out your writing, and it gives you some registration tips and information on what writing course might be the best for you. And then similarly with the help there. And then the DISP worksheets, integrated science, they look slightly different, and they walk you through how to register step by step and what your options are based on what you might want to do. So you would do something called block registration, which we'll talk about in a minute, and you just kind of pick which schedule you prefer and you would register for that. But that really goes over the 3 course planning worksheets, so one of your course planning worksheets that you might have. And I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. So hopefully that gave you a bit of an insight into how to use your course planning worksheet, how to navigate that and pick your courses from there. And as Patricia said, if you're interested in getting prerequisites for a particular program, you can compare the course planning worksheet along with the prerequisites you might need for that program to make sure you're being able to cover both boxes. And so, as you saw from those worksheets, you do have some choices there in terms of electives and different majors and things you might be interested in. So when you are thinking of electives and what subject groupings or what writing course you want to take, I'd encourage you to think about what subjects interest you. So is there a subject in high school you really enjoyed? Or maybe you've developed some passion outside of the classroom and you really want to learn more about it in the classroom. Or maybe it's just something you've always been really curious about and haven't had the opportunity to learn. And then you also want to think, what type of learner are you? So do you want a course that has a tutorial or a lecture with it? So more a tutorial or a lab with it, so it's a bit more hands-on. Do you want a course that is kind of maybe more reading heavy? So what type of course do you want? And then how do you want to structure your day? So you will have lots of courses likely with labs. And so where is the space? Like what time or day would fit best for you when you're picking that elective? And so you should be able to, you can use the course planning worksheet to help pick out your courses. So you've taken hopefully a look at the worksheet, you've got an idea of maybe what major you might be interested in, so you see that list. And then you've used the second page to kind of see, okay, what are my writing course options? What are my elective options? What I might want to take? And you'll take that information and you'll use the timetable to actually look up those course descriptions, to learn more about the courses and see when they're offered. So you'll want to use that blank schedule on those last 2 pages. You can either print it or fill it out online, and it helps you keep track of when your courses are and what's going to be the best fit for you. It also has a table at the bottom so you can keep track of everything you're picking. And so you'll want to use the timetable to be able to find that information. So you saw on the course planning worksheet what courses to take, and then you're going to use the timetable to look up when that course is offered. And the timetable holds really all of the logistical information about a course. So the day, the time, the location, the type, all of those things you can find on the timetable. So if you went to the timetable, dal.ca/registration, you get a page that looks a bit like this. Under terms, you're going to select the term for 2025-2026 fall and 2025-2026 winter. You can choose to look at them together or just select them one at a time. And then underneath that, you're going to select locations. So I would suggest you select Halifax, online, and other because it will give you the most options for your courses. And then in subject, you can type in the subject that you're looking for. Now, say, for example, we've typed in the subject and we've typed in econ. It'll look something like this. So this is what the timetable looks like based on economics. And so we'll walk through exactly what all of these things on the screen mean, just so that you can really understand this. So the first thing circled here, we have the course code, so Econ 1101, and the title, Principle of Microeconomics. So that's where you can see the course code and the course title. Next to that, we have kind of what I call a play button, that circle with a triangle in it. And so if you click that, it would bring you to a description of the course and some other helpful information. And then over to the right, we have the semester. So it'll tell you what term the course is being offered. So in this case, Econ 1101 is offered in the fall from September to December. And then here we've talked about credit hours and the idea of how many courses you want to take a semester. So you can see how many credit hours a course is worth just by looking under this column circled right now. You can see that this particular course is 3 credit hours. Next, we have section. So we can see here that section column. We have 2 things to note. The first being we have a lec. So this here stands for lecture. Underneath in this blue, we have a tut, which stands for tutorial. And then down here, we have a lab, which stands for lab. And each row is a different section. So each row is a different lecture, a different lab or tutorial offered at a different time. And so they're all numbered. So we have section 01, 02, 03, 04, and then T1, T2, T3, and so on. And then a same with the lab there too. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure you register for one of each color underneath the course name. The next we have the days. So we have here, you can find what days this course is being offered. So if the course is offered on a Monday, you see it's an M. If it's offered on a Tuesday, it'll be a T. If it's offered on a Wednesday, it'll be a W. Now, if it's offered on a Thursday, a little different, it will be an R. So the R stands for Thursday, and then F is for Friday. So you can see what time the course is being offered, or what day the course is being offered. And then next to that, you can see what time it's being offered. So it is in military time, and this particular section is 8:30 to 10 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next to that, we have location. So the first tells us this is on Studley campus. Next to that, it's in the Kenneth C. Rowe Management Building in room 1028. So we have the campus, the building, and then the room, so you can actually see where exactly your courses are going to be. And then next we have the enrollment info. So here under this column, we have the maximum number of students that can be in this class. Next, we have the current number of students in this class. Next, we have the number of seats available. Next, we have the number of people on the wait list. And then next, we have the percentage the class is full. So you can find all of that information there. And then all the way over here, we have the CRN. So this is called the course reference number. And this is what you use to actually register. So this is the really important bit. So say, for example, you're like, I'm going to take econ. I want to take econ Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 10. So you want to take section 1. You're going to record this CRN. So that CRN is the unique identifier for that particular section. So you would write down 10985. And then you'd have to pick a tutorial, like I said, one of each color. So you'd pick a tutorial that works for you. For example, we pick Friday from 12:30 to 1:30. And again, we'd write down this CRN. So 10990. And you would use those two numbers, those two CRN numbers, to then register for econ. And we'll talk more about how to use them. But as you're going through the timetable and you pick the time and you pick the day that you want, you then take the CRN so that you can use that to register in that particular section. Over here to the right, we have the instructor information. So here you can see who teaches the course. And if you click on their name, it might bring you to their contact information. So if you did have any questions about the course, you could reach out. And then all the way over back to the left, we have the notes column. So this column can hold some really key information. Right now we have a note for econ. So it's really important when you're looking that you take a look at what the note says. And so in this case, it says students enrolling in econ 1101. This is 0.03, sections 01, 02, and 03 must register for tutorials T02 to T29. So what this is saying is that if you're going to register for one of these 3 sections, you have to register for tutorials T02 or any tutorial from T02 to T29. So it's really important that you read the note just to make sure you're able to register successfully on that day. I don't have a screenshot of it, but another thing that you might see is an R. So in that note column, you might see an R or an S. The letter R, that stands for restricted. And that means this course might be restricted from or to a certain group of students. So if you do see the R, click on it and it'll give you more information. And then the S stands for special permission. So you might need to reach out to the instructor, but you also check the note because it'll often have some info there. So that gives you an overview of what the timetable looks like. And so you can go through that and really see what courses are offered when, how it's going to work with the rest of your courses, particularly when you're trying to fit electives in. You're able to then really see and map out everything else to then plug in those electives. Now, the other thing that you might see is reserved seats. So I've pulled up just a little screenshot from chemistry, and you'll see under the enrollment info, we have here the seats are broken down. So what that means is that this particular section has reserved seats for different groups of students. So the open seats, there are 215 open seats. And so that means that if you are joining as a Bachelor of Science student, you can register. If there's an open seat available, you can register for that. There are then 90 seats held for students in medical sciences, and there are 40 seats held for students in integrated science. So as a Bachelor of Science student, you might go to register for this course, and it might say, oh, it's full. And then you go check and it's actually not full. And so what might be happening is there might be no open seats left, but it's showing that there's still a percentage full. So if you do see open seats, you're only able to register if there are open seats available, if you're not in like medical science or DISP, for example. So just something to note when you're trying to register for things if there are any reserved seats. Now, imagine we're thinking of taking a course and we go ahead and click on that play button to get a bit more information. And we get a description that looks like this. Now, a little confusing because we've just gone from looking at chem to looking at stats, but I took this screenshot because it highlights exactly what I want to talk about now. So we've clicked the description for Stats 1060 and it's brought us to this description here. So right at the top, we have the title, the course code, the number of credit hours. We then have a bit of an overview of what to expect, what we're going to learn in the course, and then some notes and the format. So this particular course has a lecture and a tutorial. What I want to highlight down here are these three things highlighted. So first is prerequisites. So a prerequisite is a course or a requirement that you must satisfy before being able to take this course. So for example, you'll often see if there's a 2000 or 3000 level course, it will have a 1000 level course as a prerequisite. And in this case, this particular course, Stats 1060, it wants you to have academic or advanced grade 12 math or pre-calculus or equivalent before taking Stats 1060. Next, we have cross-listings. So a cross-listing is a course that is shared with another department. And it is exactly the same course, same time, same everything. They just have two different names. So a little trick for you, Stats 1060 is exactly the same as Math 1060. So if you go to register for Stats 1060 and it's full, or the section you want is full, go ahead and try for Math 1060 because there might be space. But they are exactly the same course, same time, same everything. And then under that, we have exclusions. So an exclusion means that this course is too similar to another course for you to get credit for both. So in this case, if you take Stats 1060 and you take COM 15, COM 2501, you're not going to get credit for both courses. You'd only get credit for one or the other. And so it's really important that when you're choosing your courses, you just take a look at the description, one, to give you a bit of an idea of what you're going to learn, but then just to make sure you have the prerequisites and there aren't any exclusions or anything like that that you need to know about. So that gives you an overview of the timetable and those little things that come up with that as well. And then next, we've talked a little about the lecture, lab, and tutorial. So on the timetable, those three different colors. And so a lecture that is typically led by your instructor or your professor, it's often a minimal interaction, and it's usually the largest section of your course. So if you've ever kind of watched a TV show or a movie that shows that kind of stereotypical university experience, it's often someone right at the front of the class, writing on a blackboard or whiteboard, kind of presenting to everyone. And that is typically what you think of when you think of a lecture. Now, lots of classes will have labs. So that is a smaller group of students from your lecture. It's more hands-on learning, and it's kind of supplemental to the lecture material. So it'll go along together, and it's typically run by a teaching assistant. And then you also have tutorials. So you saw on the timetable TUT, and that again is a smaller group of students from your lecture. So a great way to meet people. It's often discussion-based or problem-solving based on the lecture content. And again, typically run by a teaching assistant. And so what you'll see when you're exploring the timetable is that some courses will just have a lecture, some will have a lecture and a lab, some will have lecture, lab, tutorial, some will have lecture and tutorial. So courses can have any kind of combination of these three components. But what's important to remember is that if you see under the course code on the timetable, you see a lecture, lab, and tutorial for that course, you're going to want to register for the lecture, lab, and tutorial. You'll see on the timetable that they're different colors. And so you'll want to register for one of each color under the course code. So if it has all three, you'll want to get a CRN for all three. If it has two, that'll be two CRNs and so on. So just note what's going on there. And then we have online courses. So you'll see there are a few online courses, and there are 3 types of online courses here at Dell. So the first one is synchronous. And so that is a course that requires you to be online at a specific day and time every week. And though that time is in Atlantic Daylight Time. We then have asynchronous courses. So they do not require you to be online at a specific day and time. It's likely the material will be posted and it will be up to you to review that. And then there'll be a combination where there might be sometimes they want you to be synchronous, and then sometimes where it will be asynchronous. So there'll be specific maybe days and times they want you to be online, but maybe not all of the time. And you can tell what type of online course it is by the location section. So you can see here under location, that first one, we have a History 1510, History of the Future. And we can see here that this course has online synchronous sessions on Monday and Wednesday from 5:30 to 8:30 on Monday, and then on Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30. And then there also is an asynchronous component as well. Similarly with the tutorials, there is a synchronous and asynchronous component. And then down here, we just have a screenshot of an asynchronous session. And just there, that's what that R looks like. You can see here in that corner of the note. But that gives you an idea if you're looking for an online course, just see the location to see what type of it is. And so when you're thinking of courses and online and what your options are, some things to think about when you're creating your schedule is what time of the day do I learn best? What time of the day do I study best? Do I want my classes back to back? Do I want spaces in between them? Have I made time for breaks? Do I have time for lunch and dinner? Do I want to take an online course? And if I do want to take an online course, do I have a quiet time and space to actually focus on the class? And then will you be working as well? Or what are the other commitments you have going on in your day that you're not going to be able to take class then? So how is that all going to fit together? And then as you're going through the course planning worksheet and the timetable, you'll see that particularly for like the writing courses and the subject groupings, you do have a lot of choice. And so you'll want to think about what do you do if a course is full? And so current students have been able to register since March. And so you'll see that some courses can either fill up or filled up on or before registration day. And so when you are selecting courses and creating your schedule, it's a good idea to find alternative courses that might work with your schedule. So for example, with econ, we had the option of tutorials 209 to 229. So there were 28 tutorial options that you could choose from. So if one is full, maybe create a backup that would also work with your schedule just to prepare for June 7th. For example, or maybe there's a different lecture section that would work, or a different elective that you might want to take instead. And so that then brings us to June 7th and registration day. So before you register on June 7th, there is a few things that you should have done. So first being you should have activated your Net ID and created your password. And then you should have logged into Dell Online and checked your registration status. You then should have looked at your course planning worksheet and created a schedule for fall and winter that works for you using the timetable. And then when you've created that schedule, recorded those course reference numbers, so those CRNs of the courses that you want to take, so that on registration day, you have your CRNs and you are good to go. And then it's really important, you do this all for fall and you want to do it for winter as well. So registration opens for fall and winter on June 7th. And I'd really strongly encourage you to register for fall and winter on June 7th. So when June 7th comes, like 11:50 Atlantic Daylight Time, you're going to go ahead and log into Dell Online using your Net ID and password. You'll click Web for Students. You'll click Registration. This time you will click Register for Classes. And then again, it'll ask you to double check. So you'll click Register for Classes again, and you can put in the first term. So 2025-2026 fall and click Continue. And your screen will look something like this. I know it's a little blurry, but you'll go ahead and use this to register. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to go under that Enter CRN options. It'll look something like this. So I know that it does say there's that find classes function, but I really encourage you to use the enter CRNs. Because one, you've done all of that hard work to find the CRNs, you may as well plug them all in. But two, it's also the most accurate way to register for classes. So you're going to go ahead and enter CRNs. And then in that box here, you'll plug in your first CRN. You can click add another. So I would say if it's or they're all one component of a course, so like you have a lecture and a lab for a particular course, you'd want to enter one CRN, add another, type in your other CRN, and then press add to summary. And then you've done that for all of your courses, you've added them to summary, and in the bottom right, you can see your summary page here, and it all says under status, it'll say pending. And so what you're going to want to do, if everything looks good, is you're going to go down here and you're going to press submit. And then hopefully you press submit and everything will change to registered. It will be done. You'll have a bunch of green on your screen and you will be good to go, and you'll just have to do it for the winter. Now, what might happen is you might press submit and you might get an error. And so we're going to talk a little about those errors just so that you're aware of them and hopefully can work to prevent them too. So if you do get an error, here are some of the things that it might be. So I've just put here some screenshots of what that error might look like. And so some of the things are link error, XX is required. So this would be saying there's a link error, meaning that this course needs a lecture and a tutorial, and you've only registered in the lecture. So if this comes up, you would just go check the timetable and make sure you're registered for all components of the course. The next is saying section full. So this just means you've registered for a lecture section or a lab section or a tutorial section that is full. So again, you can go back to the timetable and see, is there another section that works with your schedule? This one is saying the section is full and there is X number of people on the waitlist. So it's saying the section is full, so like you can't register in this course, but there is a waitlist, and so far there are so many people on the waitlist. And we'll talk in a second about how to add yourself to the waitlist. Now the next one is saying, it looks like it says available seats held for waitlisted number of people on the waitlist. So what this is that you've looked at the timetable, there are seats, but there are people on the waitlist. So all of the seats you see are held for the folks on the waitlist. So you need to join the waitlist to take this course. The next is a missing required course or grade. So this is just to say that when we looked at those prerequisites, you've tried to register for a course that you don't have the prerequisites for. So you can go back and just click that description and make sure you do have the prerequisites for the course. If you do have them, you can always reach out to the registrar's office or the instructor just to confirm what's going on. And then that final one is reserved closed. And so what that's meaning is that you've tried to register in a course or a section that has reserved seatings, and your options, so like those open seats, they're all full. So even though there's still space in the class, the reserved section is closed, is full. And so those are a few things that you might encounter on registration day, but providing you check this timetable ahead of time, maybe you have a few backups, it should all go smoothly. Now, if you did add yourself to a waitlist, this is how you do it. So under that action here, you would click the drop down and then you click waitlisted and press submit. And then under status, it will be green and it will say it's waitlisted. So that's how you add yourself to the waitlist. I'd encourage you, if you do add yourself to a waitlist, register in a backup course just in case. And then you get notified when you get a seat in the course, but it's your responsibility to add yourself to the course. So if you are waitlisted, you'll want to keep checking your prepare for registration page, and you'll get a notification there saying you're off the waitlist, and then you can go back in here. You would click under action, and then in this case, you would click web registered and then submit, and you'd be in the course. Now we have talked a little about waitlists, and so again, what do you do if a course is full? So one thing is have a backup course or a backup section in mind. You'll also want to keep checking the timetable. So the timetable does change over the summer. So even if a course is full now, space might become available later. Waitlists do exist. So for some courses, there are waitlists. So if you can add yourself to a waitlist, that's great. And then you will complete your degree over multiple years. So particularly if this is an elective and it doesn't work out, then it's something you could potentially take later. But you can always reach out to an advisor, someone at the BISIT, to talk about what your options are there. So hopefully you've done all of that. It's gone smoothly. You've got those green ticks. The final thing that you want to do in the bottom left of that screen is you want to check your schedule. So unfortunately, the system does let you register for a course at the same time as another course. So you want to check your schedule and make sure everything looks good and that there are no conflicts. So we can see here these two courses conflict. So if you did see that, you'll just want to make sure, one, it matches the schedule you've already done. And if it doesn't, maybe you change the CRNs. And if it does, check the timetable and see, is there another section or another option for you to pick? And once that looks good, you're good to go, and you would do it all again for the winter semester. So again, you really want to register for the fall and the winter on June 7th. And if you need more support, either you want to review this again ahead of time or want help during or after, there is a Dell Online Help Center, and they have really quick short videos that cover kind of everything that we've talked about. And so you can review them either now or later, just to kind of help you as well. So that really covers the registration process. So the things that you need to do beforehand, how to find your courses, a bit of a degree overview and the course planning worksheets, how to create your schedule and things to think about when you're using the timetable, and then how to actually register on registration day. And so we're going to change it up a little and talk a bit about supports. So there are lots of different supports here at Dell, and the biggest takeaway from this section is really there are lots of people here. There are lots of people on this call here and ready to help you. There are people wearing those Ask Me pins. There are so many resources on Dell. And so if you are looking for someone or something, ask someone. It's more than likely, even if we aren't the right person, that we'll know the right person and who to connect you with. So if you have a question, if you want to know more, reach out to someone because they're more than happy to help you, and they're more likely to know who to connect you with. So first, we have the financial services. So the awards and financial aid team, we have their contact information, and they can help with scholarship and bursary funding, student loans, creating a budget, accessing temporary loans, and connecting you with services on and off campus to support with financial needs. We then have academic advising. So they can support you with making a successful transition to university, understanding your program requirements and your academic regulations, help choosing your major, your minor, your degree, mapping out strategies to achieve your educational and career goals, and then develop action plans to deal with academic or other difficulties. So you can find your advisor at dell.ca/advising, but it's also in your course planning worksheet, there will be contact information on who to reach out to for questions there as well. Next, we have career services. So career services, they're at the BISIT Student Success Center, and they can help with job search and academic preparedness, application preparedness, determining what is the best fit for you to do with your degree, what you might want to do when you graduate. They also offer a range of workshops on resume building, networking. They can review your resume and your cover letter, and they also offer career counseling. So kind of what might be the best fit for your career, and to talk about any career goals or concerns you have. Next, we have the registrar's office. So I always say anything that you see on Dell Online is something that the registrar's office is likely going to be able to help you with. So they have admissions, so that they're the ones who you've been contacting or have been contacting you. They offer registration support. They can help with transcripts. The transfer credit team is there. The awards and financial aid team is there. And they also can help with confirmation of enrollment as well. Now, a big one is the Student Accessibility Center. So whether you're coming and you know you need a learning plan, or you've had an IEP in high school, or you're curious, you think you might need one, I'd really strongly encourage you to reach out to the Accessibility Center now. They take appointments in the summer, and so you can get started on working with them to create an accommodation plan for when you start in the fall. And so the Student Accessibility Center offers one-on-one advising to facilitate access to academic courses, programs, facilities, services, so they can help identify and reduce barriers you face to the classroom, to exams, and to campus in general. They also can help advocate on behalf of and alongside of you to support your transition into and throughout your program, assist you in accessing disability-related funding, and connect you with students on and off campus. So if this is something that you know you're going to need, or you think you might need, I'd really encourage you to get that set up in the summer so that in the fall you're good to go. They also offer their own orientation in the fall. So if you get that set up now, then you can go to that orientation too. Next, we have student health and wellness. So they're kind of your medical center while you're here on campus. So they have doctors and nurses that you can have medical appointments with. You can access Dal's same-day counseling services, talk with a social worker about problems of living, and then you can get your flu shots, prescriptions, medical testing, all through student health and wellness. Next, we have professors. So they can be a really great resource to you. So each professor or instructor will have a syllabus for their course. And so a syllabus, it's kind of like a contract between you and the instructor. It outlines contact information, it outlines expectations for both of you, it has the key dates of when tests and other things are coming up. And your instructors can really help. So if you have a question about the syllabus or with an assignment or a test, and your instructor is the best place to ask. You also, if you want to learn more about their research or what they're doing or opportunities to get involved more in the department, and just also wanting to chat and get to know them, your instructors can be a really great resource. Next, we have Studying for Success. So they offer one-on-one study skills coaching appointments. So you work one-on-one with a study skills coach. It's really great whether you're coming right from high school, whether you've been a bit of a gap, they can work with you to develop those study skills, check in and make sure you have a good schedule for the fall and winter, that you've got time to study and you've mapped out when all of your big dates are, for example. They help work with you to understand your learning style. They offer a range of workshops on how to manage your time, goal planning, staying motivated, and they also have tutoring to help with like specific courses and exam prep. Next, we have the Writing Center. So they support students at all level of writing, all fields of study at any level. And so they offer one-on-one appointments to discuss any written work. And that can be, they can provide feedback on, hey, I have this question, I don't know how to answer it. Can we draft this to, I've written this essay, do you mind just taking a read and just reviewing this with me? So any stage of the writing process, any piece of writing at any level while you're here at Dal, they're a fantastic resource. Next, we have the Black Student Advising Center. So they're a cultural hub of support, programs, events, and resources for students of African descent at Dal and King's. They offer free tutoring support in bio, math, and chem, and writing support. They can help advocate and navigate campus and find resources to support you based on your needs. They also can help support you with finding funding resources on and off campus as well. Next, we have the Indigenous Student Center. So they provide a supportive environment for Indigenous students to gather, meet other students, and access supports and services. So they also offer free tutoring in bio, chem, math, and stats, as well as writing. And they have different folks that host office hours at the Indigenous Student Center. So accessibility, health and wellness, academic advising, library support, all of them are also found at the Indigenous Student Center. They host a variety of cultural events and activities, educational and informational sessions, and networking opportunities. And they also can provide referrals to supports on and off campus, and then again provide information about scholarships and bursaries. Next, we have the 2S LGBTQ plus advisor, Olivia. So some of the things Olivia can help with is accessing and referrals to gender affirming care, seeking name or gender marker changes either at DAL or provincially, resource navigation, advocacy matters related to identity or gender expression. If you're just looking for someone to talk to about the experiences you have at DAL, including any barriers you might be facing, and then generally advancing the access and equity of 2S LGBTQ plus students at DAL and at King's. We then have the International Centre, so they can help if you're interested in an exchange or study abroad program. They can assist with student immigration, visas, filing Canadian taxes. They also can help get you connected to different English as an additional language supports and connect you with on and off campus resources. And then we have the DAL-U app. So the DAL-U app, you can get it on the Play Store or the App Store. And it helps connect you to people, information, systems, announcements that you'll need as DAL. And it's a great way now just to get connected to some of the people joining you in the fall or winter, and get connected to some of the students in your class. And so that really covers the supports I wanted to talk to today. And again, that is not all of the supports available at DAL, but hopefully just from this, you'll understand that there are so many different supports, different resources, different people here to help. So if you do have a question, if you are looking for a bit of support, please reach out to someone and ask, because there's likely a support available. So to wrap it up, this is what we're here for. Registration day opens Saturday, June 7th at 12 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. The deposit payment, that $200 admission deposit, it is required before you register, and it can take up to 48 hours to process. So if you do need to pay that, I'd encourage you to pay it at least 48 hours before June 7th. You will need to activate your Net ID and create a password before you're able to register. So that's something you can go ahead and do now. And then the Bissett Student Success Centre will be open on June 7th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. by phone and email. And so we can help with things like what courses take if you run into any issues. And then the registrar's office is also open 12 to 4 on June 7th to help answer questions and troubleshoot registration errors. So if you do run into a registration area or have an issue with the registration system, the registrar's office would be the place to ask. And so finally, next steps. Once you've done all of that, you are good to go. You've registered for fall and winter, which is fantastic. We just have dal.ca/new students. So that has a new student checklist, some helpful tips, orientation information, and friends and family information too. And I'd encourage you to keep checking your DAL email throughout the summer, because you'll be sent different information about orientation and events coming up in the fall as well. So I've seen, as I've been talking, the questions were rolling in, so we will get to them now. But just a reminder, if you want to ask a question at the bottom of that Zoom bar, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a Q&A button. You'll click that, the question answer box will pop up, and you can type your question into the text box at the bottom and click send. If you don't want your name associated with the question, you can send it anonymously. And so to do that, you would just click send anonymously and then press send. Your questions will go to myself and the other folks, the other panelists, and we'll answer them live or by text. So I just have a survey here I'd love for you to complete. This will be emailed out as well, but I will drop it in the chat too, and then we'll jump to the questions. Okay. Okay, so the first question is, where can we see the syllabus of each subject? Like, for example, what does Bio 1010 have? So the syllabus is something that you're going to get on the first day of classes, typically. You might be able to Google it ahead of time, but you're not going to be able to see the syllabus until probably the first day of classes. But you're able to see the description on the timetable to give you a bit of an idea. FIGS, so someone's asked, is FIGS first come, first serve when you apply, or is it everyone welcome? So FIGS, just like any other class, is first come, first serve. So I'd encourage you to register for that on June 7th if you're interested in it. Someone's asked, can you take physics course as an elective? So it is an elective, but it's 0 credit hours. So it is a free course and it is a non-credit course. So it wouldn't count if you're looking to take 5 courses in the fall. It wouldn't count, for example, as one of those 5 courses because it's 0 credit hours. Um, Someone's asked, what year does the research program for medical sciences happen? I believe that's in your final year, but I would encourage you can reach out to Kate Straps in medical sciences just to confirm. Okay, we have, how do we join the societies before we get there or during the year? Yeah, so when you get to campus, typically in the first month, there'll be a society and volunteer expo where all of the societies will be there to kind of advertise and promote. And so then that's a good opportunity for you to join. You also could start following some on Instagram and taking a look at the DSU website to see what's available. Next we have how far apart are classes, min and max walking time. It really depends on the course and where it's located. So I'd encourage you to take a look at the location column just to see particularly what campus it's on. And what I would suggest is even just using Google Maps to see how long it's going to take you to walk between classrooms. Typically on the Studley campus, you hopefully would have enough time, but I'd again use Google Maps just to make sure. Someone's asked, how do I join one of those science societies? Again, I would suggest coming to the Society and Volunteer Expo where you get to see all of the societies, but you also could follow them on Instagram and reach out ahead of time too. Someone's asked, how do we look for jobs on campus? So we have our own kind of like job board. And so if you go to My Career, that's where a lot of the on-campus jobs are posted. So you're able to use that and see what jobs are available. And that's something I think you might even be able to access now. And you can connect with the career services if you have questions. Someone's asked, is there a limit to the amount of people able to major in a specific major? I'm not quite sure, to be honest about that. You can always connect with science about it, but at the end of your first year, you'll decide and yeah, and then you'll be able to major in that. The earliest time to register is June 7th at 12 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. And someone's asked, could I still study 1,000 level courses in my second year? So yes, absolutely. You can study 1,000 level courses at any point during your degree. Um, we have a few questions here about AP transfer credits. So if you have questions about transfer credits, about kind of how to apply, like if you have done AP and you would like to apply for transfer credits, you do need to apply for transfer credits. And you can check out the website because that can give you a bit of an idea of what transfer credits you might expect. And then you can always meet with someone, your advisor or someone at the BISIT to talk about what that looks like then for course selection. But you do need to apply for transfer credits if you did AP, if you want those transfer credits. And the website is just dal.ca/transfer credits. And I can pop that in there too. Someone's asked if students are still on the fence about which major to choose, is it advised that they register for all courses that are required for both majors? Should they narrow their decision to one major before course registration? No, I would say that first year is a really great opportunity to explore your majors and see what might be a good fit for you. So if possible, I'd encourage you to register for the courses for both majors. And if there's too many, you can always connect with an advisor to talk about which ones should be prioritized. But absolutely, there's no need to narrow that down to one major before registration day. Someone's asked you pick your classes with your intended major. Yeah, typically, like based on that course planning worksheet, you'll kind of use that based on your intended major to pick your courses. It's okay if you're not 100% sure, so you can just kind of use that based on your interests, and you'll see that a lot of them kind of have overlap in what you should take as well. Someone asked, can a double major be completed in the typical 4-year program? Yes, providing you degree plan correctly and you take typically 30 credit hours a year, you should be able to do that in 4 years, but I'd encourage you to connect with someone too to just to help map that out as well. Someone's asked, can you do a minor in arts while doing a Bachelor of Science? Yes, absolutely. You can do a minor in arts while doing a Bachelor of Science. You also can double major in a science and an art subject as well. So when we're talking about flexibility, there's lots of flexibility to even explore arts programs too, while you're in the Bachelor of Science. Someone's asked, do tutorials and labs count as credit hours? So they don't on their own count as credit hours. It's kind of like that course and all their components count for that number of credit hours. So if your course has a lecture and a tutorial and it's 3 credit hours, the lecture and tutorial together will make up that 3 credit hours. Sorry, I'm just looking through these. Someone's asked, I noticed some courses begin with the number 1000, while others begin with 2000, and I was wondering what those numbers represent. Yeah, so 1000 level course, so a course that begins with a 1. Typically, that's more of an intro course, and it often doesn't have prerequisites. Whereas a 2000 level course, that's often a course that assumes that you have experience writing and studying at a university level, and also does often have prerequisites as well. So in your first year, I'd encourage you to stick with courses that start with a 1. Someone's asked if I take Math 1060 and Stats 1060, will I get the credit for both? No, so these courses are exactly the same, they're equivalent. So it would just, if you took Math 1060 and then Stats 1060, it would be like repeating the course again. So you'd only get credit for doing that once. Someone's asked if we wanted to pick, throughout the week, do we have to have 5 classes a day in order to be considered a full course load? No. So courses will be offered differently. It doesn't mean even if you take 5 courses that they'll be on all 5 days of the week. It just depends on how you plan and create your schedule. Just providing you do the 15 credit hours, that would be a full course load. Yes, you do want to pick fall and winter at the same time on June 7th at 12 Atlantic Daylight Time. Um, Someone is asked, where do you pay the course selection deposit? So that is the admissions deposit, and there is a link in my slides that will just tell you what website you can find that to pay the deposit. So I'll just find that. So if you go to dal.ca/congratulations, you can see the link to pay the deposit there. And so that $200 deposit before you can register for courses. Someone's asked, when would someone declare if they want to do an honors degree? So typically that's something you would start thinking about in your second last year. So you have plenty of time before then. Someone's asked, are there required calculators specific to the course? I guess it would depend on the course, but if there was, you would be told in that syllabus, so that contract between you or your instructor, or at the bookstore, you can find a list of materials you need, like textbooks and other things. So if you did need a specific calculator, you could find it there. Someone's asking how fast do courses fill up on registration day. And so it really depends on the course, to be honest. So some courses are more popular than others. And so I would encourage you, if possible, if you can register at 12 p.m. to go ahead and do that. If not, there might be some courses are full, but you can again use the timetable. Are there other sections? Are there other options that you can do? And also, they do people do come and go typically in the summer from courses, so that even if there's not space now, space might become available later. But if possible, I'd encourage you to register as close to 12 p.m. as you can. The deadline to registering for courses, so you do have the whole summer, and then it's typically like up until the first 2 weeks of the semester that you can still add courses. So you do have some time, but again, the sooner you can do it to 12 p.m., the better. Someone's asked, what does exclusion means on the calendar? So an exclusion is just a course that is too similar to another course for you to be able to get credit for both. So if you took that course and the course that's an exclusion, you're not going to get credit for both of them. So it'd be one or the other. If you are a transfer student, you can register now. So you can go ahead and start this process and register now. And if you check your prepare for registration page, that's where it'll tell you that you can register now. Someone's asked, how would I know when to buy books and also if the books are needed for an asynchronous class? So what you can do is the Dalhousie bookstore, they have a list of the required textbooks based on the class. So you can use that to look up your course and it'll tell you what textbook you might need. You can buy it through the bookstore too if you want. And so even if it's asynchronous, if you do have a textbook, it would be on that list. Someone's asked, do you recommend taking 4 classes in one semester and then one summer class? How do summer classes work? So summer classes, we do offer summer classes here at Dal. They're a little bit different to the courses offered in fall and winter. So some are 3 weeks long, some are 6 weeks long or 7 weeks, and some are for the full semester. So a great option if you did want to take 4, you could take one in the summer, but I would suggest connecting with someone to talk about what that might look like, because in the summer, there's not as many courses being offered. So you'll want to make sure you prioritize certain ones in the fall and the winter. Someone's asked, when a course code has a 0.03 or 0.06 after it, does this refer to the amount of credit hours it's worth? Yes, absolutely. 0.03, 3 credit hours, 0.06, 6 credit hours. Some folks are asking about the volunteer and society expo. So that's typically done in the first 3 weeks of classes. I don't know though if the specific date has been published, but you'll see it posted to like the DSU Instagram, for example. And it's a great opportunity to learn more about societies, but then also volunteer options as well. And they offer it in the fall and the winter. Someone's asked, can you study a 2000 or 3000 level course in your first year? So what you'll find is that often a 2 or 3000 level course has a prerequisite. So you might not be able to because of the prerequisite. Even if it doesn't have a prerequisite, often that level of course assumes you have experience writing or studying at a university level. So you might want to think about whether you want to take that in your first year. Someone's asked, how do I know the courses I can take in the summer of 2026? So the summer timetable, so that you're able to see what courses are offered in the summer of 2026, isn't available until December. So you're not going to know what's offered in the summer until December, and then you would register in February. Someone's asked, is there any way to have access to used textbooks? Yes, absolutely. The bookstore does sell used textbooks, but you can also search online and see if like on Facebook or other places you can buy a used textbook. And sometimes the library will have a copy as well that you can use, or there's an online version that could be cheaper. Someone's asked, does the tuition related to the number of courses you pick? Yes. So you do kind of pay tuition based on how many courses you're registered in. Someone's asked on the course planning worksheet, there we go. The calendar says there will be exams for Bio 1010 on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. Does that mean I can't register for another course at that slot? I would encourage you register for another course, and you can always reach out to the instructor to confirm what that looks like, just to double check what that means and like what happens if you have another course at that time. If possible, though, you could try and avoid that slot. Someone's asked, a 6 credit hour course is recommended for first year. So a 6 credit hour course is just kind of like 2 3 credit hour courses combined. It's no different than a 3 credit hour course. It's just kind of taking up 2 slots. So if you were looking to take, say, 4 courses or 12 credit hours in a semester, that would be 2 of your 12. But you absolutely can take a 6 credit hour course if you wanted to in your first year. How do you know what courses to choose if you don't yet know your intended major? I'd encourage you to use the course planning worksheet and look at those different subjects to see what you might be interested in. You can look at the timetable to see what descriptions might interest you that you might want to take, and think about, if you don't necessarily know your intended major, but is there a particular field that you want to work in, like physical sciences versus life sciences, for example, to help kind of narrow that down. If you are kind of considering multiple majors, or you're not sure of multiple interests, or like Patricia said, kind of the career and the subject-driven pathways, I'd encourage you to reach out and we can help talk about what would be the best fit for you there. Someone's asked if we take an online asynchronous course, would the exam be in person or online? If it says it's online asynchronous, the exam would likely be online and asynchronous, but I'd encourage you just to reach out to the instructor and just confirm that the exam is online and asynchronous. You can find the CRNs for the FIGS classes in the timetable. So the same way that you would find the CRNs for any other course, you would do the same for a FIGS course too. And then there's a few questions about kind of majors and minors. So you aren't going to declare your major and minor until like the end of your first year. So you can kind of use your first year to give yourself time to think about what you might want to do and what you might want to take. So you're not going to declare this until the end, and more information will be given out then too. If you're in MedSci, you don't have kind of someone's asked if I'm taking MedSci, what is my minor? You don't have a minor. It's not like something that's added on without your permission. So if you did want a minor or you wanted to explore that, I'd encourage you to talk to the MedSci advisor about what that might look like and what your options are. Someone's asked, do any courses go on longer than one semester? So there are a few courses, like for example, you have to take Ocean 1001 and Ocean 1002 together. But other than that, the rest of the courses you can kind of take, they're like separate individual courses that you don't have to take just for the fall or just for the winter. Someone's asked, I don't remember if I paid the deposit. Where can I find if I did that? So if you log in and you check your registration status and you have those 3 green ticks, it means you paid the deposit. If you get one that says you need to pay the deposit, that means you haven't yet paid it, and so you can go back and do that. Someone's asked, are we able to start using the Dowplex? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but you can reach out to them and double check. And then someone's asked, can we join clubs or volunteers at Dow this summer before we start so we can get to know more people at the university? That might be a little club or volunteer dependent. I'd encourage you to reach out, but it might also be that you have to wait till you actually start. But you can at least start looking into what you might want to do when you get here. Someone's asked, how can I find out more about intramural sports? So the Dowplex website has a lot of information about the intramurals, and they'll also likely be at the kind of society or volunteer fair too. And I'll find that information for the intramurals. There we go. Someone has activated their net ID and password. How can they change it or do anything like that? So what I would suggest, if you're having trouble with your net ID, activating it, any of that, I'd contact Information Technology Support, so ITS, to see if they can help you there. So I've just sent that information. Someone's asked, does the registration time vary for different faculties? So all incoming undergraduate students register on June 7th at 12 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. During the current students, some faculties do have different registration times, but for the undergrads, it's June 7th, 12 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. Someone's Someone's asked, I've noticed some courses have numbers like Introduction to Arabic 1 and Introduction to Arabic 2. Does that mean they are different courses or are they the same course offered at different times? Yeah, so they're different courses. So you'll see they have a different code. I think one is likely offered in the fall and one is the winter. That's kind of like Introduction to Arabic Part 1 and Part 2. So yes, different courses, different times. Someone's asked if I'm taking Stats 1060, do I have to take Math 1215? That really depends on what your intended major is. So for example, your intended major might want you to take a different math, but as a Bachelor of Science student, you do need to take 6 credit hours of math and stats. So that could be Stats 1060 and Math 1215, or it could be Stats 1060 and a different math course. I would suggest looking at the course planning worksheet to see what's recommended, and then you can always do the self-assessment tool as well. Someone's asked, what's the difference between medical sciences and science in terms of wanting to pursue a career in medicine, like a surgeon? That really depends a lot on the different requirements and admission requirements of the like medical programs you're interested in, I would say. For example, Dow's like either option would kind of open the door for medical school. It just depends on what you want to study in your undergrad a bit as well. So I would encourage you, if you're not sure what might be the best fit, once you're here at Dow, you can meet with our career services to talk to them. You also can reach out to the medical sciences advisor to talk more about the medical sciences program and kind of the benefits of that too. Someone's asked if the course we wanted to pick is full and instead we pick a course from the cross listings, will that give us the same credit? So if the math course I want is not available and I pick the math course from the cross listing, is it guaranteed to fulfill the same requirement? Yes. So if you took Math 1060 instead of Stats 1060, it would fulfill the same requirement. Again, it's the same course, just a different name. Someone's asked, how flexible is the program for married students with children? I think it can be flexible, particularly some of those bigger courses. There are like online options for some of them and like multiple like days and times that you can choose. You also then could take a reduced course load, for example. So I'd encourage you, if this is the case, like reach out to an advisor and talk about what kind of your needs are and what your schedule might need to look like and then how that can happen. And then someone's asked, are the dates known for orientation? And so I can pull them up and share them with you too. So the dates for orientation, this is just kind of a rough draft, but the International Student Orientation will be August 26th and 27th. Residence move-in is likely going to be from August 28th to August 30th. And then new to Dal orientation will be August 28th to September 2nd. And in there might be other kind of orientation events. So the Faculty of Science is doing something. The Accessibility Center does something, for example. I'd encourage you over the summer to keep an eye on your DAL email because you'll get a lot of that information there with those details. Okay, I think that was all of our questions. Hopefully you got your question answered and that was all the information. And so hopefully this made sense. You have a good idea of how to pick your courses, how to register, and you're feeling more confident for June 7th. And again, all of this information will be emailed to you. The slides will be emailed as well as a link to the recording. So you're able to review this in your own time. And you'll also on the course planning worksheet is contact information. So if you did have more questions or you wanted more clarification, you can go ahead and reach out to the contact on the sheet to get more information. But if not, thank you very much for joining us and we hope you have a good night.